Welcome back to our channel of eerie bedtime stories. And tonight we bring you another terrifying tale from our series of true camping horror stories. If you love staying up late and listening to scary stories with your friends around a campfire, then this video's for you. As always, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. And don't forget to let us know which stories should we cover next. You just might see your suggestion in an upcoming video. Now, let the darkness guide you through a night of silence and fear. It was summertime, and 4 friends decided to take a break from school and work to rent a campsite at an old national park in Colorado. The website for the park said that it was open year-round, but when they got there, it was clear that no one had been around for quite some time. They were shocked to see that despite it being the middle of summer, the park was completely empty. The only other car in the lot was covered in dust and had a faded Colorado license plate from 1999. They laughed it off and got to work setting up camp. As they pulled out their tent and sleeping bags, they couldn't help but notice the complete silence. There were no birds, no bugs, not even the wind. It was eerie, unsettling, and downright creepy. But they shoved those feelings aside and tried to enjoy their time outdoors. After all, they were tired from their drive and hungry from their long hike to the site. When dinner was over and the sun began to set, they started to feel uneasy. One of them joked, "Well, that was delicious. Now we just gotta hope that whatever is around here doesn't decide to eat us." They all laughed nervously.
"Oh, don't worry."
Someone else said, "I'm sure we'll be fine. Even if something did want to eat us, it probably wouldn't be able to climb over that big rock monolith." They all sighed and headed off to bed, hoping that the sound of their voices would be enough to keep whatever was hiding in the park away. But that night, the silence became their worst nightmare. It wasn't just the lack of noise that made it so unbearable. It was the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for them to fall asleep so it could strike. They tossed and turned in their tents, trying to get some rest, but the longer they lay there, the more the silence seemed to press in on them. It's making it impossible to fall asleep. Finally, exhaustion got the best of them and they drifted off to sleep. Or at least 3 of them did. One person couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Just as they were starting to fall asleep, they heard a knock. At first they thought it was a branch or maybe an animal, but then they heard it again. Someone or something was definitely knocking. They poked their head out of the tent to try to see what was out there, but it was too dark to make anything out. Then they heard a voice. "Hey guys, you mind if I come in? It's really cold out here and I don't want to freeze to death." They all screamed and huddled together in the tent. They told their friend to stay put and they'd come check it out in the morning. But that proved to be a very difficult task. When they unzipped the tent, they were relieved to find that there was no one there. However, they did notice that the zipper had been slowly opening during the night. When they inspected the area around the tent, they found no sign of anyone being there. No footprints, no disturbed grass, nothing. They chalked it up to their imaginations and tried to convince themselves that it was just a harmless prank. But when they went to start their fire, they noticed some odd symbols carved into the trees surrounding their campsite. They didn't recognize the markings, but they knew that they hadn't been there before. Their imaginations were running wild. Were they being stalked by a crazed killer? Had they stumbled upon some kind of sacred Native American burial ground? Was the silence part of some strange ritual? They didn't know what to think, but they were starting to get scared. One of them suggested that they should pack up and head home, so they didn't want to spend another night in that creepy campground. So they quickly gathered their things and headed to the car. They were relieved to be leaving. They'd had enough of the silence, the creepy crawlies, and the unsettling feeling that they were being watched. As they drove down the deserted road, they started to relax. The oppressive atmosphere of the campground seemed to lift, and they were grateful to be out of there. They talked about how they were going to tell everyone back home about their harrowing experience. They were excited to share their story with others and relive the fear they had felt. They were also thankful that they had each other to lean on for support. After such a traumatic experience, they knew that they would be bonded by their shared trauma forever. Then suddenly, one of them exclaimed, "Oh my God, where's Sarah?" They had been so focused on driving and talking that they hadn't realized that one of their friends was missing. They had driven past the turnoff for the restrooms and Sarah had needed to go. She had asked them to stop there so she could run in real quick, and they had agreed. But now she wasn't answering her phone, and they were getting worried. They turned the car around and headed back to the restrooms, but they couldn't find her anywhere. They searched every stall and every room, but there was no sign of her. they started to panic. What if someone had attacked her? What if she had wandered off and gotten lost? What if she had fallen and hurt herself? They searched for hours, calling her name and waving their arms, but there was no response. Finally, they had to face the fact that she was gone. They alerted the park rangers and told them everything that had happened. The rangers searched the area, but they couldn't find any sign of Sarah, not even footprints. They interviewed the friends and tried to piece together what had happened, but they came up empty-handed. They were finally ready to give up and go home. They had been searching for hours and it was getting late. They needed to get some rest before they could start looking again in the morning. But when they reached the car, they saw something that made them freeze in their tracks. Standing in the middle of the road was a figure. It was tall and thin, and it was wearing Sarah's hoodie. They stopped the car and yelled out, "Sarah, is that you?" But the figure didn't respond. It just stood there motionless, staring at them. They got out of the car cautiously and approached the figure, but it was gone. When they reached the spot where it had been standing, they saw another set of strange symbols carved into the road. They didn't know what they meant, but they knew that they didn't want to stick around to find out. They ran to their car and slammed the doors shut, and they floored it and raced down the path. They didn't stop until they reached the safety of Sarah's house. They pounded on the door, and when it opened, they rushed inside. They explained what had happened to Sarah, and the police were called. But when they arrived, they found no sign of a struggle and no witnesses. The case was eventually closed with no answers. To this day, no one knows what happened to Sarah or why their friend had vanished without a trace. All that's left are unanswered questions and an unsolved mystery. And that's all for tonight, campers. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more terrifying tales from the great outdoors, then be sure to subscribe so you won't miss a single story. Also, let us know your thoughts about the story down in the comments below. We always love hearing from our listeners. But for now, it's time to go. Campfire's dying and the darkness is rising. Who knows what might be lurking in the shadows just waiting for you to turn your back. So grab your flashlight, lock your doors, and sleep tight because the woods are never quiet. If you want more true camping horror stories to help you fall asleep, then be sure to check out our playlist of spine-chilling tales. And if you want to send us your own scary camping story, then be sure to follow us on social media and use the hashtag #ScaryCampingsStories. We might feature your story in an upcoming episode. Thank you for joining us around the virtual campfire. We're so glad you joined us for another episode of Scary Camping Stories. If you loved this episode, then please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. We've got plenty more where that came from. Till next time, happy camping and beware of the silence. The woods are never truly silent, and sometimes the quietest places are the scariest of all.